so many YouTubers and content creators are really just savage. Like they're willing to do anything to make it. If you're willing to do anything to make it, the street interviews is just enough of getting outside your comfort zone and just enough of 99% of people won't do it that you can really separate yourself and create good content. And that could be a big difference for the growth of your channel. And
Let's Plays, yeah. It's hard to make it in Let's Plays, let me tell you.
Is that competitive, right?
Oh, it's so competitive. Because, I mean, wouldn't everybody like to play video games and get paid for it? You know, that's kind of what a Let's Play is. Obviously, you got to add your commentary or just be extremely good at the game. But definitely the days of having a channel where you just play a game with minimal commentary and getting hundreds of thousands of views are long gone.
Most people think that sitting down in front of a camera and pressing record is the only way to make YouTube videos. And we're here to tell you that that's not the only format. We're going to talk about video formats today. And yes, I would say that the majority of YouTube videos really are just a person sitting down and talking to a camera. And those are called talking head videos. And yeah, a lot of people do that. But why do what everybody else is doing when you could use a little bit of creativity, come up with a new video format, and that could be the key to your next big video? Changing it up, finding what works, doubling down. You've heard the advice before, and we're here to give you some new ideas today on how you can make that next big video. So welcome back to the Video Creator Show. My name is Augie Johnston. I'm here with my co-host Grant Ball, and on this podcast, we just talk about how to make it on YouTube. So before we get into today's episode, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video. That is vidchops.com. VidChops allows you to add an expert video editor to your team in just a few clicks so you never have to edit again. So imagine that, a few clicks away from having an editor to edit all of your YouTube videos. So if you're interested in that, head over to vidchops.com and we'll hook you up. Okay, so I already mentioned it, Grant, that talking head videos are probably the majority of content on YouTube where people are hitting record and talking to the camera, but still there are a lot of different kinds of formats you can do while you are kind of talking to the camera, right? So, the first one that comes to mind would be like education or edutainment is what people call it, I think, these days, where you're doing some sort of tutorial or you're teaching basically through YouTube. Any kind of special formats you can think of that you've seen in education type videos that maybe you liked or that you didn't like?
I mean, I think like Hank Green is a good example of educational videos where he's kind of talking to the camera and, he'll talk about some interesting science that is on his mind or that people have asked him about. And it's very simple, but I think his charisma kind of carries through and is very entertaining. So I think his editing is very simple generally. I think a lot of people are probably familiar with him. But I would call him an edutainer, as maybe cringe as that sounds. But yeah, I think he's a good example of that. And, his format, again, it's very simple. It's more like he speaks from the heart. He maybe has some notes, but that definitely is a tried and true format of just speaking to the camera with some notes on a topic that you are knowledgeable of. I'm guessing he does research beforehand to kind of like solidify his knowledge of whatever he's talking about. Maybe he's talking about wasps or the Earth's core or something like that. But he clearly has it clear in his mind what he's going to talk about, and then he says it, and it's entertaining, and he edits it quickly. Like there's nothing fancy, but he wastes no time, and I think that is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, and I think the biggest tip that you dropped right there when just kind of discussing that is that he does it with charisma and it's entertaining, right? I think that's kind of like the number one mistake that I see people make that try to create education or tutorial type content is it's just boring. It's like there's no personality behind it. And I think you need to keep that in mind when you are creating educational content, that it can't be just so cut and dry, because the people that come to your channel just to get a quick tip on how to export something in Photoshop or whatever you're teaching right in that video are here to get that tip and leave. But the people that are going to come and watch all your videos are the ones that actually enjoy your delivery and enjoy how you present things. And so I think that was a big takeaway that from what you just said, that it does have to be entertaining. Also, you said minimal editing, right? And I think that's another kind of perk of education type content is it's not difficult to edit a talking head education video as it is a vlog, or something crazy. So I think that's also a good point, is that you don't need to go over the top with your editing if you are good on camera and you can keep people watching. For me, I was trying to think, what are some other kind of formats that talking head education channels use? And the one that I thought of is screen sharing, right? So that might be a different format for you. You might share your screen in your videos and teach through, how to do something on the computer or whatever. And that could be a format that maybe our listeners right now are listening and saying, how could I change up my education content? Well, maybe try doing some screen sharing and including some of that kind of stuff. Anything else you wanted to add to the kind of the education channels that you've seen?
Sure. I think one big distinction in this genre and really any genre of YouTube, if I may call it that, is like, are you looking to be informational or are you looking to tell a story? And you mentioned that vlog editing is more difficult than like an educational video, which I think is generally true. And I think the reason for that is storytelling is hard. Like, you kind of have a beginning, middle, and an end to a story. You kind of have to sell people on why this story is important. Whereas if you're giving information, I feel like just speaking about it in an interesting, charismatic way will pull the viewer in. And I guess in a sense, you're still sort of telling the story of that information. Like, there's some overlap in these categories, but I would just always keep in mind, do you want to be a storyteller or do you want to educate people on things? And I think generally informational videos are easier to make, assuming you are already knowledgeable on all the research and whatnot. They're easier to edit and put together.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think you mentioned storytelling and education as two separate things, but I think probably the best education stuff includes storytelling. Like, why is what I'm learning relevant? Well, you can tell a story that makes it relevant to what your experiences are and which would make it relevant to the viewer. So I think that's a major key too, because you can get educated not just by 1 + 1 = 2, but through a story of, hey, I had this cupcake, and when I was in kindergarten and my friend had a cupcake, and all of a sudden we realized that, well, I don't know where I'm going with this, but you get the idea. If you put some background to what you're teaching, then I think it makes it more relevant and more entertaining too. So yeah, and that kind of leads me to the next kind of, I guess, format for a talking head video, and that would be maybe storytelling, right? So some channels really are just people sitting down and kind of talking about something that happened in their life. These people are not really a lot of times trying to sell you something. They're just kind of purist YouTubers at heart. You think of story time in the title, right? Like that's kind of the key for some of these creators is, I think Emma Chamberlain is one that would come to mind, where she's just really telling stories. You can call it a vlog. A lot of times it's just talking head, though. Do you have any channels that you follow closely like that? I really don't. I used to, when I was younger and looking for entertainment. I would follow some of these channels, but nowadays I don't.
I mean, I generally don't follow channels where, they're talking about like a bad Tinder date or something, though that can definitely be entertaining. It's just not necessarily what I reach out for. But yeah, like I think that's a really valid genre of, hey, this is a crazy experience that happened to me. Here's how it went down. And if you're good at telling stories, then you can just talk to a camera and like you don't have to necessarily put a lot into the editing or anything. Maybe just cut out some uhs and ums and maybe some like a boring part of the story maybe, but overall I think you can just kind of hit record and talk if you're speaking from memory. I think the only difficult part of that is to make sure you always have news stories to talk about. I know there's YouTubers that got a lot of views by talking about bad Tinder dates, and they would keep making these videos. And then it was almost like they were incentivized to go on as many bad dates as possible. And so if you do kind of go into the storytelling genre, you, I think, need to ask yourself, like, am I willing to live an interesting life that is worthy of telling stories about it? Because that does take a certain amount of conscious effort. It's almost like a lot of the work that you're going to put in is more about living a life that's worthy of being talked about versus putting all of your effort into like really intense editing or researching a video. Like, it's kind of, what do you like better? Do you like being in a room by yourself, or do you like going out there, experiencing something and then coming back and sharing it with the world. I think those are kind of two ways of being that whoever is listening can think of that and be like, okay, I think one or the other would appeal to me more.
Yeah, and I think you can do both. I think if you are just pumping out education videos, like a little story time video every now and then where you put some good thought behind it that's related to your niche, not totally off topic, could be a good test. Now, it is switching it up and it most likely will bomb. I mean, from my experience, with my basketball training channel, I'm pumping out all these basketball training tutorials. Anytime I did something different, I tried to test with a story time or something like that or a reaction video. They never did as good as well. It's because people were showing up for the tutorials, not for to hear, how my workout went or something like that. But, definitely worth a shot and definitely worth a test. And that's why you're listening to this episode right now. We're just trying to give you guys some great ideas. And speaking of talking head videos, the next kind of format I would say would be like news. And I love this format. Like what, especially for businesses, like what industry, what niche are you in? You could create an entire YouTube channel just updating people about the news in that industry. That could be your entire channel and you could get endless ideas because new news is coming out every day. My favorite example, I've talked about this guy all the time, is Meet Kevin. He has a YouTube. He started as like kind of like a real estate channel, then it kind of turned into like a finance channel, crypto, and just whatever. But he's was cranking out a video every single day, and it was all because it was news. He'd wake up in the morning, he'd look at the stock market, he would have a bunch of stuff to talk about, and his editing would be super minimal. He would just record it, cut off the beginning, cut off the end, put an end card, put a little intro stinger, and render it out and upload it every day. So that's why I saw him grow. I watched him grow from small to big. And so people do like that kind of content. I think they'll wake up every morning and what do people do? They grab their phone. A lot of people open up that YouTube app. If they watched the video yesterday, then the algorithm is most likely going to show them the new upload if you just uploaded it, 5 hours or 2 hours ago. And they're clicking on that and they're watching it laying in bed and the first thing they wake up. I don't know. That's kind of how I envision it. But that's one news YouTube channel. What are some other ones that are
Sure, a big one for me is Philip DeFranco. I watch him most days, I would say, and he has a big team behind him. I mean, he's very established, but he started by just you know reading news articles and then talking about them to the camera, giving his opinion on things, and then kind of built it out from there. But he's very much like, what is the news that happened yesterday or that happened today, and he just talks about it to the camera and then has a team of editors who kind of put it all together. They'll put screenshots from articles, they'll show relevant footage, they'll really put the show together. But ultimately it is him as a talking head talking about the news. But I'd say the only thing about news channels is you really have to be somebody who can keep your finger on the pulse. Like, if you are somebody who I think naturally follows the news and is interested in that kind of fast tick realm of things, then news could be a good fit for you. I think for someone like me, that would be overwhelming. Like, just kind of keeping up with what's happening and then reporting on it accurately every single day. That could be really hard. But there are people with different brains than me, and they just kind of absorb all this information and then they can talk about it every day, and it's not necessarily difficult for them. Whereas someone like me, I like to kind of mull things over, think things through. I'm not gonna have like a gut reaction to a lot of things I see necessarily. At least, like, if it's a particularly horrible story, then of course I will. But then my take might not be super interesting. And either way, I'm not the kind of guy who likes to follow the news every day. I'm just not.
Yeah, and you got to be super opinionated too.
Yes,
Like you have to kind
which
of
I'm not.
be polarizing. I know, me too. I'm like, I really don't care, you guys, about this, but
I wish I
it did
was.
happen. Yeah,
I will say, being really opinionated, I think, is really helpful in the entertainment sphere. Like,
totally.
it you can get a lot of attention. The downside of that, of course, when you have strong opinions, is there's going to be other people with strong opinions who disagree with you, and you kind of have to deal with that fire. But yeah, strong opinions I would recommend. And it's not something you can fake. If you're faking a strong opinion, like, people notice, and they will not watch. But yeah, if you have a fast tick brain with strong opinions, consider making a news channel. Just saying.
Yeah, and if you want to do that research, but yeah, I think it's good content because people want to get updated. I mean, why? Look at the news. The news has been around forever. The newspaper, the news on TV, all that kind of stuff. So it's like a proven format, right? That's probably the most proven format on this whole list is news. So yeah, I think about it sometimes and how to incorporate into what I do. But okay, let's talk about another talking head style. Okay, and I think this kind of format is good for long form. It's proven to be a good long form strategy, but I like it for short form a lot too, and that's reaction videos. So you're reacting on a topic, you're reacting on something, and yeah, this can be another opinionated type content as well. But you think of reaction videos, you think more of like somebody watching something and roasting the video, basically, right? So I mean, there's that. If you have that personality, if you're funny, then that might be kind of the way you do it. But I'm also thinking of a guy named Graham Stephan, who is a finance YouTuber, and he started a whole new channel doing reaction videos on like I think it was like kind of like millionaires and millionaire finances. Like there was like a TV show, and he was reacting to this TV show, and the videos did well for him, and he did it very tastefully. He'd be like, "Oh, they're spending 3,000 on a couch. Oh, if you took that 3,000 and invested in the stock market in 10 years, it'd be 6,000. In 40 years, it'd be $1 million." And it was good to get his. He was able to show his expertise in reacting to stuff, and like I said, he did it tastefully. So reaction content. What is your experience with that?
Yeah, I mean, reaction content, it's very easy to make. Like, you kind of show up and you just, blah, this is how I feel about this. And then you kind of edit it down into a video. Like, there's a lot of advantages to that. And I mean, XQC, he's like a huge reaction streamer. H3H3 got big reacting to things. I think the danger of reaction content is it is sort of a gray area of fair use. Like, you can get a lot of hate if you're not actually adding much to what you're reacting to. So like if you there's like the chair meme, right? With XQC where he will leave the room for several minutes and it's just kind of showing his chair while there like a video is playing. And that's kind of, I don't know how often he actually does that, but that's sort of like the best example of like, is this transformative? Like, is this fair use, or are you just kind of using this other person's video to get views for yourself? Which he's been criticized a lot for that, for sure. But yeah, you really do want to make sure you're adding something. Like, maybe you are reacting to a video of some guy trying to pick up women on the street, and you want to give your opinions on what's going on, your thoughts of what's going on. Like, do you feel like this guy is being rude? Do you think he's being cool? Do you think, like, if someone approached you like this, how would you feel? Like, you kind of want to share and give your own spin on everything that's happening and not just like show the video. So when it comes to reaction content, you really want to make sure that you are giving something real and not just showing a video.
Yeah, and I never knew about the just kind of standing up and leaving and letting the video play, and I never knew anything about that. But yeah, I can see that does not fall under fair use. Yeah, and just what Grant's talking about is you can publish reaction videos of other people's videos on YouTube as long as you're adding to them, and making them different, giving your take basically. And it's actually not that strict, you really can just sit there in front of the video and just say, wow, that was cool. Wow, amazing, stuff like that. But okay, reaction videos. The next one is video essays. Would you consider that talking head or no?
mm, I mean, in the sense that usually they'll like film themselves talking about what they're talking about, but I wouldn't quite call it talking head because usually a video essay, like, it has so much research involved. There's usually a lot of editing that goes into it, and it's not just somebody talking to a camera. Like, I guess to me, talking head is like a purist. It's like a pure form of a video where somebody hits record, talks to the camera, and that's 95% of the video. I would say video essays generally that I'm familiar with, they have a lot of editing. They're showing screenshots of what they're talking about, they're showing videos of what they're talking about. It's almost like the talking head is like an aspect of the video. It's not like the entirety of the video. So I would not call video essays talking head.
Yeah, because you're right. They are more scripted, completely scripted, word for word, They are, I think of them B-roll like throughout the whole entire video. You might not even see a face of who's talking. It might be a voiceover even for a video essay. So there's a format right there too, right? It's just B-roll with a voiceover. Now that's you're asking for a tough one there. That's going to take a lot of work, but that's a great format too. Where you can meticulously script your thing, and every word is going to hit and everything's lined up perfectly, and you rewrite it, something like that can really create a great video. When it comes to video essays, I really enjoy, I guess you'd call this a video essays, Patrick CC. Are you familiar with him?
No, I'm not.
Okay, Patrick CC, he used to create just kind of like rap video type like reactions to rappers, stuff like that. But eventually, he got into just talking about news, kind of YouTube news, things that are happening on YouTube, and yeah, he would do like complete breakdowns of like scandals and all that kind of stuff. Who are some video essay channels that you love?
I mean, ContraPoints is great. PhilosophyTube is amazing. Then I actually just realized I have watched a Patrick CC video recently. His one on McLovin and his life after Superbad. That was pretty interesting and hilarious. I feel like I watch so many video essays from like different YouTubers, but I don't follow any like one in particular. Like I've probably watched a million video essays like Patrick CC, but I don't like subscribe to them or anything, which I think speaks to the power of the video essay format of like I'm if something looks interesting, I'm willing to watch it. Like I don't necessarily care who made it. If there's a great title, like the Patrick CC video, McLovin got what he deserved. Parentheses life after Superbad, and it's like a picture of McLovin aged 10 years holding up the the iconic ID, and that I think it's you can really transcend your personality through a video essay because you can piggyback off of topics that are objectively interesting and give an interesting take on them. So, yeah, like other video essays, it's almost like I don't know how much it matters just because of how ubiquitous a popular essay can become. Like, I do you have that experience with watching video essays where like you don't necessarily wait for your favorite video essay YouTuber to post. You're just kind of always watching them.
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like with the video essays, like they're great, and it's kind of almost like a new trend. Like a lot of new channels are coming out with them, and they're great because they're so high quality. Like a video essay could be even an hour or two long, which is crazy to say because they're so highly produced and scripted. And these creators are releasing like one a month or like two a year, even. And I'm the same as you. I'm not subscribing and checking this channel every Wednesday to see if they released anything or anything, but I do think the algorithm just promotes them out and I click on them, and because they are very interesting topics and all that stuff. And when you do click on one, if it's interesting enough and you stick around, it gets that watch time and gets promoted by the algorithm. And so they're just being shared out more than just other kind of content. Other creators are, releasing 3 videos a week and they're all just kind of These ones are just like really well researched, right? It's almost like you're watching a Netflix show in a way, a lot of
Hmm.
times.
Yeah,
Um,
like a Netflix documentary almost.
yeah, yeah, totally. So, if the topic pops up and it's good and it looks interesting, I click on it, I'll watch it. And then, when that creator releases another one, the algorithm will promote it, it'll show it again. So, yeah, a lot of people have, and I think Patrick CC falls in this bucket where they kind of stumbled along, struggled along on YouTube, did their best, and then eventually discovered video essays and just like went all in on them and really blew up their channels. It's a great video format, and I think some people really enjoy deep diving into stuff and producing these kind of videos, but they're not for the faint of heart. And I mean, you might go and spend 3 months making a video and it just flops, and you're just like, ah.
But the advantage of that is if you have a large enough backlog and then one of your essays blows up, I think that style of video is more likely to feed into the rest of your channel because it's not like if somebody likes your take and your research into one topic, I think they're going to be more willing to watch other videos on your channel because it's so there's more to it than just your personality or like this one story. It's like if you're deep diving into everything you do, then I think people are going to appreciate that. And it's like bingeable content, you know? So, like, if it does flop, that is horrible and that sucks. But in the long run, it might not be a flop. Like, eventually, when you find success, you're going to have this huge backlog of videos that people can go back and watch. And I do feel like video essays, especially because they can be pretty long, like, success might be on your side in the long run, but not the short run, you know?
Yeah, and I think those are the type of videos too that could flop, and then eventually, like 3 months down the road, all of a sudden see like a spike and start getting views through the algorithm recommending it because maybe they just showed it to the wrong audience when it first came out. But eventually people, like you said, go to your channel for other reasons, maybe find it, watch it, it gets that watch time, and then it takes off. So I definitely could see that happening too. The last kind of, this isn't talking head format, but I guess technically you can call it that, and that's video podcasts. So video podcasts are new to YouTube. I would say within the last year, they opened up the podcast tab on YouTube, and you can, have a podcast tab on your channel where you can, say this video is specifically a video podcast, and it'll go into that podcast playlist and all that kind of stuff. So, this here is a video podcast that we're creating right now. This is a virtual one, right? We're not in the same studio right now. We're in different places, and I've seen these kind of podcasts, this format, do very well. But I do also think that there is something to being in person as well. And the majority, it seems lately, are in-person podcasts. So I guess my question to you is, do you follow any video podcasts, and are they in person or are they virtual?
So, Colin and Samir is probably my favorite YouTube video podcast. They are in person. Obviously, the advantage of in person is I think it's easier to have like chemistry with whoever you're talking to. There's a lot of body language that gets across in person. I think it probably is. It's just sort of helpful for the flow of the show. But virtual is very, it's just easier. Like if I'm in Oregon and you're in California, we can just hop on and nobody's got to go anywhere. There's no expenses involved really, and it's easy. But yeah, Colin and Samir is probably my favorite. They, as I know you know, talk about people who have succeeded on YouTube. They interview YouTubers. They really go deep and ask interesting questions because they are knowledgeable of the space. They have made a living doing this for 10 plus years. And yeah, and then I mean, there's like Diary of a CEO. That's really interesting. That's an in-person one where he interviews really just successful people across the board. Obviously, not necessarily CEOs, but just people who have achieved levels of success. And he does a lot of research into the guests and just asks interesting questions, makes them feel comfortable, and then they kind of share their story in a way that they otherwise would not have. But yeah, I do feel like the biggest podcasts generally, they seem to involve like interviews, like talking to people, like it sort of, I think, keeps things fresh. Or if it's a podcast like this, where it's two people talking to each other and it's kind of the same people pretty much every time, the biggest thing there is just, are you delivering interesting information? Are you reacting to something that happened in the news? Are you, you want to bring something to the table, and I think having a guest really like automatically brings something new to the table because this person is new. I'm such a big fan of video podcasts that I cough when I talk about them. But yeah, I love them. I like putting them on the TV and just kind of letting them roll and like eating food while watching. And in that sense, they're really good for watch time. People can kind of leave them on. And I feel like they're easy to produce. Like you can make a 2-hour podcast and yeah, you probably want to edit it down and whatnot. But man, that's so much easier than like a 2-hour video essay. Like a 2-hour video podcast might take you a few days to produce. A 2-hour video essay will take you like months to make. And that's kind of the power of it. I think that's why we're seeing such a big influx of them, because of how easy they are to make. And that's not to say it's easy to make a podcast blow up, but relative like to a highly researched editing intensive video, they're easier to make. And I think a lot of people are trying to throw their hat into that ring for sure.
Yeah, that last part, a lot of people are throwing their hat, and actually YouTubers are quitting the YouTube game and just going on into the podcast game. Actually, a lot of people. I mean, I think Logan Paul was probably the first one. He just went with impulsive. I'm kind of doing this now, not really uploading YouTube videos. And another creator, Bia Heza, is a guy who just recently said, yeah, I'm taking a break from YouTube, and he started doing the video podcast. And on his last episode, he was just talking about how he loves it so much. It's so fun and it's enjoyable it's enjoyable to create the content, and a lot of times with YouTube, people that listen to this, they know it's kind of a stressful, kind of a struggle type thing, when video podcasts aren't like that at all. I mean, I feel a really big difference. I mean, we're able to get this done, in a pretty consistent basis, where I've been trying to get back on YouTube for a long time and I'm just blocking myself. And I think you're the same as well. So,
Well, I think that's a big advantage too of like we have a set time where we meet and we show up and we record it and then we send it to somebody to edit. Like in that sense, it's very easy to systematize a podcast, whereas a video, it's almost like you need to show up and put conscious effort into it every day, and it's kind of hard to systematize. Like, how long is it going to take to research something? You don't really know how deep the rabbit hole goes when you're starting something. You also don't necessarily know how long it's going to take you to produce an interesting take. You can do all the research you want, but like, how do you tie a bow on it? Like, how do you, like, for me, the hardest part of writing a video is always the conclusion. It's kind of, why does any of this matter? Whereas like a conversational show, like, the conversation is the point. If the conversation is interesting, then you already have the script, you already have the show. You just need to kind of edit it together, put an intro in, cut out the dead air, whatever. Yeah, it's just so easy to systematize. And man, things that are difficult to systematize, like, it can be frustrating because, yeah, you don't know how long it's going to take you. You don't know how well it's going to do. Man, it's kind of a gamble every time.
yeah, and the other kind of perks or pros of video podcasts is great for repurposing. You can get vertical snippets out of them, especially if you got a crazy guest saying all kinds of outlandish things, right? You can really get some good short form vertical content. So yeah, for beginners, think about video podcasts. It's a good way to get started and creates a bunch of good content. Everybody's going to it, but when they zig, you should zag sometimes. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if video podcasts really do just take over YouTube. I could actually see it happening. I can see that being like the main content. But okay, wow. We've gone through a lot of different formats. Before we jump out of talking head kind of videos that you would say are just sitting in front of camera talking, I want to share some really good advice that I got on just different type of talking head formats that is more like helping you come up with a topic or a title or something like that. And to be honest, I can't remember where I got this. I did not create this. It might have been a Patty Galloway type thing, but anyways, here they are. There's 4. So when you're coming up with your talking head video, you should show us what you did and then tell us how you did it. There it is. There's a great talking head video. Show us what you did and tell us how you did it. And that could even work for education, right? Next one, show us what you did and tell us what you learned, right? So show us what you did. I did this, and it could be a failure. This is what I learned. That's another good one. Next one, show us your results and tell us how you did it. So maybe you got 10,000 subscribers and show us how you did it, or tell us how you did it. And then the last one is show us your results and tell us what you learned. So anyways, those are just, I thought that was super interesting when I ran across it, because everyone struggles to come up with topics, and it's kind of the most important part of the YouTube creation process is a good topic. So show us your results and tell us what you learned. Hey, I benched 450 pounds, and I learned that, in order to do that, I had to, start, I don't even know too much about fitness, but, changing my diet, eat more protein, start taking creatine. I got on the roids, or whatever.
Yeah, the biggest thing.
Yeah,
I had my bro inject my butt with roids every
most
day,
important part.
twice a week. I don't know how often you have to do that, but
Oh,
why not?
Oh, you know.
Oh yeah, you can tell.
Yeah. So
These
okay.
biceps
Anyways,
don't lie.
I just want to share that because I thought that was interesting and valuable information. So let's jump into different types. So we'll kind of run through these a little quickly, like street interviews. We talked about this before. There's a totally different kind of format where you go out onto the street and you interview people. Like I mentioned last time, I love this for short form content. Have you ever seen it for long form content?
Not really. Usually, so there is a channel. The name escapes me right now. Zendaya, and that might be a famous actor. But it's something similar to that. Basically, she'll She's in San Diego. She'll go to like Balboa Park and ask people like, "What's the hardest thing you've ever been told?" And she'll kind of cut together several responses into like a 10-minute video, give or take. And in that sense, I have seen it work for long form content, but I think usually it consists of multiple interviews as opposed to like one. Whereas like the single interview thing tends to work for YouTube Shorts. I think it's just rare to walk up to somebody on the street, put a mic in their face, yeah, ask them a question, and then they talk for 10 plus minutes about something really interesting. It's rare you're going to find that person with that kind of life experience, I think. So, yeah, if you're going to make long form content with street interviews, consider asking several people the same question and then cutting it all together into one video because that is a very compelling format.
Yeah, that is a compelling and another easy one. Maybe not easy as far as getting outside your comfort zone and doing a street interview on the street, asking strangers, but easy as far as you just need one question, right? And five people, and you got yourself a 10-minute video where you just ask the same question five different times, get a bunch of different takes, and it could be entertaining. So I do like that idea a lot. And Noah Kagan is somebody who is the founder of AppSumo and kind of an online entrepreneur, and he made YouTube content for the longest time. I think he first started kind of with some tutorial stuff, and then found a little bit better topics, more just talking about his business, doing storytelling about entrepreneurial space. And eventually I think he was just like, this is what I got to do, and I got to go do street interviews. And he would just go to the richest part of town, walk up to houses, knock on their door. Hey, I have a YouTube channel. Can I ask you a few questions about your job and how you made millions of dollars? And then, sometimes, majority of the time say no, but sometimes say yes. And that content just worked like gangbusters for him. And his YouTube channel is over 1 million now. And that was a huge shift. And he talks a lot about how it is kind of uncomfortable, but well worth it. So it's, so many YouTubers and content creators are really just savage. Like they're willing to do anything to make it. And I think that's a good way to do it. If you're willing to do anything to make it, that will get you there. Like the street interviews is just enough of getting outside your comfort zone, and just enough of 99% of people won't do it, that you can really separate yourself and create good content. And that could be a big difference for the growth of your channel. And it's not something where you have to go and, go streaking at the NFL Super Bowl or do something crazy like that, which all these people are really willing to do anything, like I said. Yeah. So if you are ambitious, I would say definitely test that kind of content out. Okay, let's keep this thing moving. Street interviews, vlogs. Everybody knows what vlogs are. We have a whole episode on vlogs. So go check out the previous, I think it was 2 episodes ago. We deep dive into vlogs and why they're kind of dying out, kind of how to do them tastefully. Another kind of format would be gameplay live stream stuff. Like, what's it called? Like, Grant, you're in the video game, like Let's Play or Play With Us.
Let's plays,
Let's
yeah.
Plays?
It's hard to make it in Let's Plays, let me tell
Is
you.
that competitive, right?
Oh, it's so competitive because I
Yeah.
mean, wouldn't everybody like to play video games and get paid for it? That's kind of what a let's play is. Obviously, you got to add your commentary or just be extremely good at the game, but definitely the days of having a channel where you just play a game with minimal commentary and getting hundreds of thousands of views are long gone. I remember there was actually this channel. He was never like super famous or anything, but he posted gameplay clips or like of just him playing through a game, and he was kind of one of the first people to do it, but he didn't like have a strong personality or anything, but he was so early to the punch that it worked out for him. And then I don't know if there was a glitch or maybe he was just sketchy, but basically he for whatever reason lost a bunch of subscribers and they just kind of never came back. Like there were YouTube screwed up or realized that they were all bots and his views were fake. I don't know. But point is, let's plays are so competitive that when he kind of got hit like that, he never got the views back ever because like that ship had sailed and his sort of established audience who maybe were just watching him out of habit were no longer finding him, and new people weren't going to find him because he just wasn't that interesting. So you got to be, man, let's plays are great, but you either have to be excellent at the game, in which case you're probably relying on one game, which can be dangerous if it falls out of style, or you just got to be really entertaining, like the Game Grumps. That's actually the format I tried to get into YouTube with initially. If you go to Treesicle and look at our really old videos, they're all Let's Plays. And it wasn't until we kind of went into the silly philosophical video essay that Treeskull actually got really big. So, and yeah, we just couldn't make it in Let's Plays at all. It just all the videos got like 15 views, maybe 100, and that not as fun when there's less people watching.
Yeah, and the biggest name, and correct me if I'm wrong because I don't know this space, but the biggest name, and maybe you can give me some reasons on why this person blew up, is Dream, right? His Dream did Let's Plays, right, on Minecraft. Am I right?
Yeah, he got big with Minecraft, and he's still really big for sure. But yeah, he
What was
just
different about him? Because yeah, he really blew up. Like he's like, yeah, he's an icon now. So like, how did he
mhm.
do that?
I never watched him, so I don't know for sure, but I do think his branding was a big thing where what does he look like? Like has kind of the smiley face logo, and there was a lot of mystery around that. I think he also just was very creative with Minecraft. Like he would just come up with interesting scenarios and then kind of play through them and had the personality to back it up. That's kind of how he did it. I think if you're able to get creative with gameplay, kind of the way that he did, it can work out, like slaying the Ender Dragon wearing a Santa hat. Just something crazy that's fun. You do it. And if you could come up with enough original ideas, then it'll work. But yeah, I don't know enough about Dream to say like exactly how he got huge, but I do know his branding was a big part of it and his creativity in his Minecraft adventures.
And from what I know, I think he was like an expert at speed runs, right? I think that was what his kind of his gig
Yes.
was. That's where you just kind of go super fast through the video game, and probably a combination of Minecraft popularity too. And Minecraft is like universal. You got old people playing it and young people playing it. So yeah, okay, Dream is a great kind of case study on how you can blow up on YouTube and stuff in the gaming niche. But yeah, it's probably the most competitive niche there is Let's Play. So okay, let's go. The next one, skits. Okay, skits is a good format, and I think that professionally done skits, is the future of YouTube. There it is. So I'm talking about like highly produced, like novellas, like soap opera type content where we have actors acting out something, and we're already starting to see some channels. I can't remember the names of them, but there are channels out there where they're getting 6 actors off Craigslist to go into someone's home, and they're giving them scripts, and they're shooting a quick 10-minute thing about a life lesson or something like that. And I think that those kind of skits are going to get more and more popular on YouTube as we move forward. But skits have been around forever. I love a good comedy skit is what I love
Hmm.
on YouTube. But yeah, what about
That's
you?
OG YouTube.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, I love skits. Like Cracker Milk is a channel that comes to mind. They're Australian. They have incredible production quality.
Mm.
All of their skits are like a minute or less, generally speaking. So I think there's a lot of wiggle room there. So for them, they'll post like one video a day. Well, they do post shorts. They'll like cross post their long form videos into shorts because their videos are so short, but they'll do both essentially. And it works for them. I watch pretty much every video they put out, especially because they're so short and so well produced. It's almost like even if the video is bad, which all of their videos are good, I've got a minute to spare. Why not? Like, are skits the future of YouTube? I think skits are always going to have a place on YouTube because everybody wants to laugh. Everybody wants to see some kind of ridiculous scenario play out in front of them, especially if there's like social commentary involved. And yeah, I think skits are always a good option, especially if you have good chemistry with somebody. Like you can kind of vibe off of each other, ad lib things, and it's like you can bridge that gap between script writing and ad libbing. Or improving rather. And there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of versatility in that. And again, there's that opportunity to feed off the energy of the people around you. Whereas I think a lot of YouTube, the challenge is kind of the loneliness of it, of like being in a room by yourself and trying to be funny. Whereas if you're making a skit with your friends, you're feeding off each other. And that energy kind of keeps you going. Like it probably takes less conscious effort to make a skit with people around you versus trying to write some funny script by yourself and then filming it by yourself. And you know what I mean? Like there's so much camaraderie that you can get from skits, I think.
Yeah, and one of my And I think skits are also too great for short form content, right? Because they're hard to make a 10-minute skit. And when I say it's the future, I'm talking about, I just see YouTube content getting more produced, highly produced, more scripted, more planned out. And so I think that, we'll see YouTube channels popping up in different niches all over the place where it's almost like watching a TV show, you know, and that's kind of what I meant by it. And yeah, I mean, right now they're pretty bad acting and that kind of stuff, but they do grow, and people do like them a lot on YouTube. So people will hit subscribe when they know every week a new skit's coming out. So that's definitely good. And the one, I think it's a TikTok account, or they probably have a YouTube channel too, that I really love though. It's like some guys sitting down for like a video podcast, right? They all have their mics, right, like we do in front of them, and they'll say like, all right, you are a 40-year-old mom born and raised in Texas. You're at the grocery store and you're with your daughter. I'm the daughter. I just dropped a carton of eggs and they all spilled and cracked on the ground. Ready, go. And then the other person on the other line's like, son or daughter, what did you? And they go get right into like an improv skit, and they do it like over and over and over again. And it is hilarious. It is so funny. And they just crack each other up the whole time. And I love that format. That is a really cool format because it's almost like this, like we're doing, right? It's not like they are sitting down, planning a script, 20-page script for, a week. They're just, okay, we got, they're probably just making those scenarios up on the fly and just doing that. So anyways, I think that's a great format and just really, really funny content.
Totally agree. Into the skits.
Yeah, skits are good. I mean, a lot of people listening to this are probably business owners. You're thinking, how the heck can I make a skit? This is, well, here's the thing. The most creative, the most disruptive YouTube channels are the ones that get noticed. So I'm not saying you need to go start a skit channel, but use it as a source for inspiration to maybe make a video someday that's a skit. And if it blows up for you, I'm sure you will be excited to make another one. So that's really what the advice of this whole thing is. What kind of format do you want to try? What kind of format are you already using? There's tons of different ways out there. And to be honest, there's formats out there that have not even been invented yet, which is crazy to say because it's so competitive on YouTube and all that. But honestly, there are formats. I mean, the one I just explained with the podcast thing, like I've never seen that format before. That's brand new to me, and it's great. So I think everybody out there should be testing themselves and testing new things and trying to come up with content. What do you think, Grant?
I agree. Try it all out and see what works for you. Or even just like maybe there's some where you're like, never in a million years. That's fine. But you might be surprised. Like over my career, I've tried everything from live streaming to face cam to I started off with no face cam, just talking into a microphone and putting editing over everything. And I'm glad I've done all of that. I do feel like I learned a lot about myself and what I'm good at. And yeah, I think branching out can always help us be more well-rounded. So yeah, consider this list and figure what truly works for you, and only one way to find out. That's what I say.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. If you're listening, thank you so much for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you guys hit subscribe. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can follow us there as well. My name's Augie. That was Grant. Thank you guys so much for listening. See you next time. Bye.
Later.